The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OAUG Emerging Leaders March webinar. My name is Samantha Ogon, and I'm the OAUG Staff Liaison for the Emerging Leaders. This call is being recorded, and you are all currently on mute, but we do highly encourage you to ask questions. So if you have any questions at any time during this webinar, don't hesitate to write it in the question box, and we'll answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. All right, and before we start the educational portion of this, I just want to go into some information about the emerging leaders and some things that can help you get connected with the OAUG. So the first is just the emerging leaders. What are we? We're here for people who are just getting started with your career or new to Oracle applications. So we're focused on helping you get your career started on the right foot by helping you build your professional network with peers and mentors, and to stay up to date with Oracle applications, the Oracle applications community. And we also help to share information or help you ask questions and discuss information with peers or mentors, or help you connect with peers or mentors. We host webinars like this one. And we also host a networking event at Collaborate that includes a group of mentors with different expertise that are there to help you connect and answer any questions on their subject area. And you can find our page on the OAUG website under the membership tab to see how you can get involved, take a survey on other webinars you'd like to hear about, watch our past webinars on YouTube, or sign up for our email list to receive information on future webinars. And also about Collaborate, our RSVP for the networking event is now on that webpage. So if you have gone in the past or want to go this year, make sure to RSVP on that page if you're attending. And then I also want to talk a little bit about Collaborate. As I mentioned in my first slide with the Collaborate Emerging Leaders Networking event, but another great resource as a whole is the Collaborate 18 conference. And Richard will be speaking. This presentation is just a preview of his whole presentation. So this is a good show to see what you'll experience at the conference. So you can get education and the networking that you need. We'll have over 1,200 sessions, 5,000 other professionals, and 200 exhibitors that you'll be able to connect and learn with in one spot. And our sessions always include real-world scenarios and experiences straight from other users to help you get the first-hand experience. And if you are considering going, the early bird pricing ends this Wednesday, March 8th, so that's how you'll save the most money on the conference. And then you also get that Emerging Leaders Networking event as part of your OAUG registration. And you can find more information about that at collaborate.oaug.org. And because this is a preview for Collaborate, I just want to give you a few other Collaborate 18 resources. They will have more preview webinars next week. And it will include people from Oracle who will give information on Oracle roadmaps, turbo talks that they're doing, information on their hands-on labs. And then it also will have one from the event staff so you can ask questions about how the conference will go or information that you need as an attendee. In addition, if you're going, there's a professional development track, and we'll have Emerging Leaders Turbo Talk. So if you're really interested in professional development talks like this one, make sure to add some of those to your agenda. There are 37 sessions available this year, and this one is one of them. So if you want to add Richard's session, if you're going to Collaborate, you can just hit the professional development track on the agenda app and you'll find it right away. And then finally, if you do need help asking your manager for approval to go, you can use the handy Justify Your Attendance tools. So we already have a letter to your manager template ready, an expense worksheet, and that agenda builder to showcase what sessions are best for you and your organization. And that's all available at collaborate.oaug.org. All right, and now I'd like to introduce you to our presenter. Richard was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska. He attended the University of Alaska Fairbanks and received a Bachelor of Science in Physics. His scholarly pursuits continue to focus on system science and data analysis. He applies knowledge of these areas in his role of Enterprise Resource Planning Administrator at the, Richard, how do you pronounce? I'm sorry.
TENA?
Yep.
Tanana Chiefs Conference?
Yep. And he is also involved with the OAUG Emerging Leaders as a committee member. And outside of the office, Richard enjoys spending time with his family and exploring the great outdoors of Alaska. He is an endurance sport enthusiast. So with that, Richard, do you want to take off?
Sure. Thank you, Samantha. As she said, my name is Richard Stevens. I am the ERP administrator at the Tanana Chiefs Conference. And today I will be giving you a preview of one of my sessions at Collaborate 18, how to optimize your small team for today's challenges. So for this talk, since it is a briefer talk than at Collaborate, I will talk about skills for aspiring leaders and some of the automated tools you can use to help your small team. So I'm going to talk about the strategies I've developed and tested based on principles I found around the world in areas of leadership, education, science, and history. To optimize your small team, you'll first need to work on being your best self. The list of desirable management skills is extremely long, so I would suggest focusing on a couple you are naturally gifted at and also a couple that you are naturally horrible at. Leaders must be accountable and consistent above all things. The next step is to bring the knowledge in-house. In-house labor has pros and cons, and at Collaborate we'll discuss this in more detail, but it's incredibly important for your company and therefore you to direct your environment into the future. What's your 10-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? What are you doing tomorrow? Are you and your company working together on these plans? Do you have data to back up these plans? Do you have plans to get more data to help support your plans? Automated tools cannot fully in-house the knowledge you need. Continuous training is happening in the workplace now due to the increasing rapidity of release cycles and patching. The traditional training regime impacts small teams in a big way. Multiple week-long classes a year for a staff of 2 or 3 are just not feasible. The solution, in my opinion, is short, hyper-focused task training. Learn what you need right before you need it. And lastly, running an Oracle shop takes more than 2 or 3 people, so you'll have to collaborate with super users, consultants, outsourced labor, and task automation. Learn how to build just-in-time, unique teams mixed of all of these types of workers. So today, we'll handle the first 2, skills for aspiring leaders and automated tools, the eBusiness Suite functional analyzers specifically. Okay, so skills for aspiring leaders. In my opinion, the first most important ones are accountability and consistency. Own your processes. So you can own and lead any process you are involved in. This is great for aspiring leaders as well as people that are new to leadership. You can prove to those around you, your coworkers, and your bosses and management that you can be accountable without actually being in charge of anything yet. You can accomplish all of the things you need to do and show that you are dependable and accountable. The next one is consistency. No one can expect you to be right all the time, but you can be consistent in your effort and thorough in your investigations and recommendations. Next is professionalism. Dress, speak, and present yourself as a confident professional. The next one is active listening. Assume everyone you speak to knows something you don't. This one is hard for me. I don't like to, but I tend to think that I know everything and that I can offer an off-the-cuff solution before I finish listening to someone. That is a horrible trait. It's something that I work on all the time in my personal and professional life. If you assume that everyone you speak to knows something you don't, it helps you listen to them. And the people you talk to, be they stakeholders or customers or even your teammates and staff members, may not be able to articulate exactly what they need. That does not mean they don't know what they mean. It's up to you to listen and try to figure out what they actually want if you're going to provide a solution. And to that end, you can be a solutions provider. you can get back to people with thoughtful, data-driven solutions. You will lose credibility if you always offer off-the-cuff solutions, because you will be wrong often, and people will remember that. Next, grow yourself. You aren't born being your best self, but you can work on it. And if you're honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses, you can improve, and those around you will see you working on your weaknesses and taking advantage of your strengths. So when it comes to these and it being inspiring, are you being inspiring for the right reasons? You obviously have some skills in that area to be promoted to leadership at a young age or new to your position. So you can inspire people, but are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you being who you want to be? I started reading as much as I could on the topic because when I took this leadership role, I knew I was not very well equipped. It was my first management role, and I was very worried about being good to my teammates, my staff members, to my stakeholders, and our customers. So anyone can inspire for a short period of time, be it through motivation or excess compensation or even fear, but that is not how you build a sustainable long-term solution. So I've found the Harvard Business Review to be a great source, as well as some thought leaders out in the world. Jocko Willink from Echelon Front wrote a book called Extreme Ownership, and I found that incredibly valuable because when you take ownership, you are accountable for your actions, and it also allows you to foster the other important mindset tasks in order to do what you want to do. And when you take ownership of something, people will have trust in you that you're going to get things done, even if they don't see you all the time. Because if you have a small team and you're in charge of a small team, you're always busy and you will always be busy. So you want those around you to know that you're still doing what you need to do, no matter what. And the next one that I really like is from David Marquette. He was a submarine captain, and he wrote a book called Turn the Ship Around. And it's a story of how he took an underperforming ship and made it one of the best in the Navy. I'm fascinated by military leadership due to the constraint that it's extremely hard to fire someone. So they never view a situation with, we can just get rid of them and get new people that are better. That type of thinking always worries me because while there may be a fundamental problem with your team, firing all your staff and getting new ones is not the solution. There's also a problem with you if you feel that way. So when it comes to consistency and getting people to believe in you, one of the problems that people run into is logical fallacies. You may employ these yourself. You may not know that you do it, and those that you're in meetings with may also use them, and it's important to spot them. So there are many more logical fallacies. These are the ones that I fall victim to the most and also see the most with those around me. And the reason why I bring these up is because we're always looking to find the root cause or a good solution. If your thought processes about any situation, you will not be able to make a great solution or a great recommendation. So the first one that I run into, which seems to be human nature, is a false dilemma, making any decision into an either or statement. So we must finish this project or we'll get fired. We must get more staff or we won't be successful. That was one that I ran into, is I always felt like more employees would fix all my problems. But when I started to think about it, and when I was presented with the fact that that may not happen in a timely fashion, then I started to look for other solutions. And I realized it's not an either or. When a project is failing or when you're up against the wall, not too many solutions are off the table. The next one is hasty generalizations, making general statements or judgments without sufficient evidence. This is also easy to do. So if you think back to our skill set for ourselves, this ties in with being a solutions provider and making off-the-cuff recommendations. This is very dangerous to do. One that I encounter a lot, especially in bad meetings, is the red herring. Is someone bringing up an item that is related to what you're after, but it's off topic, it's derailing, it's not pertinent to the decision that needs to be made. If you spot this, or if you see yourself doing it, you can address it. And you can say, hey, that is an important point, but it's not what we're here to discuss right now. We need to leave this meeting with this decision being made. Another problem is a causal fallacy, assuming the root cause of an issue without sufficient evidence. This one is really easy to happen, and it happens to me all the time with troubleshooting the e-business suite. Oh, I've seen this before, or I've seen something very similar, so it must be this, or it must be that. That's not necessarily the case. There can be a lot of different issues in the e-business suite that provide similar symptoms when you're troubleshooting. Be very careful when you're making solutions based on a causal fallacy, especially if you're going to do things like call a consultant and spend a lot of money for them to investigate something and then turning out it was wrong and you could have fixed it yourself. One that I face in the business world often is the sunk costs fallacy. And this is the idea that because you've spent a lot of money on something, it's worth continuing. So an example is, say you pick a timekeeping solution and it looks great, you're working on it, you're 90% through and it comes to implementation, and it turns out different departments in your organization have a problem with it. Let's say one department wants to be kind of lax in how they do timekeeping, and another department wants to be extremely strict with their timekeeping. They want notifications if someone's 3 minutes late. They want to set strict schedules. And if your solution can't do that, you're out of luck. You end up with this mentality, if you believe in sunk costs, where let's find a workaround. Let's get through it. We're so close to the finish line. Let's keep going. Well, do you want to be stuck with that workaround for many years? Are you going to be faced with a re-implementation or implementation of another product in a couple years? These things are very worth considering, and it's never a bad idea to suggest pulling the plug if you have the data, if you can justify what's going on. And then one that can fall in with sunk costs is the bandwagon or echo chamber logical fallacy. This one is easy to happen in any group. It can happen with your executive management. It can happen with your IT management. It can happen with groups of users. Just because everyone agrees does not mean they are correct. It's easy to think this is true, but it may not be. And if you're confronted with this, it may be very easily to just say, well, you're all wrong. Even if that's true, you got to find a better way to say it. And you also have to be careful that in the ERP environment, if you and your consultants and your team members and your staff all agree, it may still not be the truth if a customer is coming to you for a solution or with a problem. You must be careful that you actually do a thorough investigation, even if everyone agrees. So the next one is the young leader perceptions. I like to think of the saying in poker a lot. If you've been in the game 30 minutes and you don't know who the patsy is, you're the patsy. So what this means is that you don't know everything, and if you're new or young, you definitely won't. You're going to live in this for a while. You're going to be described as green. You don't have enough life experience to provide useful long-term predictions. This is not true, but it's kind of easy to see how someone could think that. How could you make a 10-year plan for the company when you've only been in the industry for 5? Or maybe it's just 2. You aren't experienced, and that's okay. You can own that, and you can make long-term plans anyway. You may come off as a know-it-all, You must be smart and ambitious to be a young leader or to get promoted into a new field. You can own it. You don't want to be pedantic or fake it because people will see it, but you do know what you're talking about. And especially if you watch out for the logical fallacies and do your homework, you will know a lot of things. The next one is being insecure. You will feel insecure sometimes. It's a natural thing. But if it shows up often enough in your character, you'll lose credibility, and you do not want that. So you can always remember that if you were promoted, at least one person, often multiple people, think you're qualified to do what you do. And that should be enough. So following into that, what are your expectations? It's good to be ambitious, but it's a double-edged sword. The Harvard Business Review did a survey of CEOs, and they found that CEOs sustain higher ambitious goals than other people. But if you set your goals extremely high, you can run into imposter syndrome, which you're already at risk of if you're a young leader or you're new to your role. So how do you pick a higher ambition goal with less risk? Pick achievable goals on a corporate time frame. So have something that you can report on yearly, quarterly, monthly. You may still have a very ambitious 10-year plan, and that's okay. Just make sure that you have reasonable metrics so that you can show your own self success as well as those around you. And then find mentors. You can find a mentor in any aspect of your life. You can find one in your field, so potentially here at OAUG or at the Collaborate conference, or someone at your organization, someone who's been around the block for a long time, someone from one of the departments that you serve who knows a lot about Oracle or is a super user that has valuable insights for you. And also life mentors. Who around you do you know who inspires you in some way? So now that we've talked about building yourself in accountability and credibility so that people will believe you and trust your small team and give you the resources to expand your team or spend money on consultants or outsource projects or all of those things that seem risky on a corporate scale. Let's talk about self-sufficiency. So how do you get the data you need to be consistent and make good decisions and also troubleshoot and fix problems? One that I found, which is amazing, is the Proactive Support e-business suite functional analyzers. Your team, if it's very small, like mine, you will not have the breadth of skills to fully analyze your environment. You'll need help. So if you get these functional analyzers, they will tell you what's going on with your system. You will see the good, the bad, and the ugly of what's going on. And very importantly, for me at least, is it makes a separation of roles. You will be able to have yourself and your team find the problems you want fixed and have that divorced from the people you're going to ask to fix the problem, especially if it's consultants. Consultants are great. They're a wealth of knowledge, but from a corporate standpoint, your boss or your management team may not feel comfortable with an outside group of people finding out what's wrong and then also making solutions to fix it. Even if you trust them, your management team may not. And this separation of powers it really helps you move forward without that friction. So once you download that tool, you need to run it on your server. This is kind of what it looks like. As a small team person, I did not really understand the separation of powers in the Oracle world, separating out your OS system administrator and your DBA and your functional system administrators and your functional super users. There's very good reasons why those are all separated, but as myself with one staff and now two staff, I didn't know where those lines were and who had what passwords. And when you read the Oracle documentation, who's supposed to do what? and how do I do the things I need to do from each of those responsibilities without getting derailed or making a big mistake. The functional analyzers are a relatively simple tool that cross these. So this needs to be put on your operating system, and you need to run it with the app's password, which you may have to have your DBA do for you. And you will also need that password to update the analyzers. But there is a great built-in functionality to where these analyzers will check against the Oracle servers and download the newest versions for you. And then using the command for the bulk FND load, it can move all of the analyzers into your system to where they'll show up in their default responsibilities that you can then assign to the responsibilities that are unique to your company, so that you can run them or even let your super users run them. So here's what one looks like. And this was kind of amazing. When I was making this presentation, I ran the approvals management analyzer, which I hadn't used before because it's relatively new, and I found an error. And I was able to just go look at it. It's so easy from this executive summary. You see so many things. And so here was the error. I have supervisors for employees that are terminated, and these need to be fixed. And if you, let's see, let me get the laser pointer. If you click this down arrow, it'll actually show you all of the entries that need to be fixed. So in the course of half an hour, I went from not knowing there were any issues to running an analyzer to see the entire health of this responsibility, to finding an error, to seeing all of the things that need to be fixed and making a plan of action. That is phenomenal time savings, and you need this if you're on a small team. And if you can't fix it, and if you see something that's still wrong, if you go back to this main menu, you can log a service request with Oracle support from the tool, and it auto-fills in a lot of the details you need to complete your SR, which, as many of you know, can be kind of cumbersome. And so to summarize, the functional analyzers allow you to determine your own tasks and prioritize. You may find a lot of problems in different areas, but you, your team, and your management team can decide in what order to fix them. You can decide how to approach the issues. You can build accountability. You can see with whoever you've tasked to fix it if they actually did it. I trust the people I work with, but it's always good to be able to just check. You can just rerun the analyzer to see what's going on. And the ease of submitting an Oracle SR. It's very helpful for a small team to be able to submit an SR like this. And it allows you from submitting an SR that you may not have worded correctly, or Oracle will need more information. But if they have this data already submitted to them, it can cut down on 3-4 days of back and forth with Oracle support before they understand what you need. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with all of you, and I will hand this back to Samantha.
Well, thank you, Richard. I thought that was a great presentation. And if any of you on the call right now have questions for Richard, please submit them in the question box right now, and I'll give you a minute to type them all out. And while you wait, I just wanted to reiterate that if you want more of Richard's session too, and you're going to collaborate, make sure to add it in the agenda, in your agenda. And you can find that at the Collaborate website at collaborate.oaug.org. And Richard, what's your full session title at Collaborate?
Let me bring it up.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Okay.
Otherwise, feel free to email either one of us if you do have questions in the future too. All right, so I do have one question. You did mention mentor and finding mentors. Once you find a mentor, what's the best way to start building a relationship with that person?
So what I found that works is build a bridge from person to person. They have some expertise that you want to know about, but you don't want to be a name in the crowd that's forgotten. I have an advantage. There's not too many other people who can say, hey, I'm from Alaska, and there's all these cool things going around me. I've had multiple people say, oh, right, I remember you, you're from Alaska. And also take an interest in who you're talking to. Don't just say, hey, I know you're important, or I know you're very knowledgeable and I want to learn from you. How do I be like you? Find out how they are. Like, what are they like? What are they into? And then you can discover, how did you get your passion to become whatever it is that you want from them, that skill set or that ideology or that character. I think that is the best plan. And follow up. It's very easy for someone to say, okay, yeah, I'll try to help you out with what you want to do, but be persistent. Reach out and continue reaching out. Everybody's busy, and if they forget to write to you, it's not a personal slight. So they may appreciate having someone put in the time and effort to reach out to them. Anything else?
I do not see any other questions at this time, but I will have this webinar posted on the Emerging Leaders page, and again, that's on the OUG website under membership, under the membership tab. And so if you have questions for me or Richard about anything you heard, don't hesitate to email us. And then if you saw things that you wanted to go back on this presentation, the recording will be posted. So by the end of day tomorrow, and I'll send an email to all of you attendees that it has been posted. So otherwise, I'd just like to thank you, Richard, again for speaking to us about this topic. And then thank you all for attending with us today. All right, have a good rest of your Tuesday, everybody.
Thank you.